but chiefly they that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness, and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed, they are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. Now, it's so important that we understand this verse, because again, this ties in so well with the theme of 1st and 2nd Peter, and this is going to help us understand a difficult passage later that people get confused on and try to use to teach you can lose your salvation. You've got to get a hold of this, okay? This really isn't complicated. The only reason a verse like this is complicated is because you listen to a novice with a self-serving agenda try to preach from this verse. That's the only reason you would have any confusion on this. Okay, because here's the thing. Peter has stressed over and over again the importance of how a saved person should stop living according to the lust of the flesh and should start living according to the Spirit. If you are going to live according to the Spirit, if you are not going to live according to the lust of the flesh, you have to put up safeguards and guardrails in your life. We need things governing us. Just like you put a governor on a truck so it doesn't go over a certain speed. The golf courses always put governors on the golf cart so you can't drive them too fast. You know what? We need government in our life to stop us from doing the things of the flesh, to stop us from going into lasciviousness. We need something to govern or restrain the sinful flesh of ours, because if we don't, we are going to live just like the rest of this world. That's what it's talking about when it's talking about government. Okay? That's what it is. Government is a restrainer of evil. It's supposed to prevent evil. It's supposed to help keep people on. And then they are supposed to punish those who actually do evil. Why? So we can put a stop to that evil. Because as a society, we need restraint. As individuals, we need restraint. We all need government in our life. It is so important because we don't want to go into the flesh. And so what we can't do is isolate that verse, ignore the context, and then to try to teach, not only should we go along with wicked leadership, but to tell people that you shouldn't even think badly about that wicked leadership. Because let me ask you this. Do we really think that people like Biden, Harris, Pelosi, Mitt Romney, J.B. Pritzker, do we really think we shouldn't despise these people? I mean, you can't get any more repulsive than these people. I mean, are you going to tell me, are you going to go, if you hear me just saying nasty things about Nancy Pelosi, are you really going to go to 2 Peter chapter 2, where it talks about those who despise government, and tell me, shame on you, you're violating that passage? I mean, are you going to tell me, when I look at our nation and our Senate and our Congress and these people passing these pro-abortion bills and things, that I'm just supposed to look at those people and not have just disgust in my heart? That just doesn't really make sense to me. And then you're going to use that verse? Because notice who these people are that he's talking about here. Okay, the bad people that he's talking about here in 2 Peter 2. He's talking about a people who walk after the flesh, the lust of uncleanness. And while most of us all have things to govern us and keep us in control, these people don't. Okay? These people don't. You see, government, another definition, is control or restraint, the exercise of authority. The exercise of authority by parent or householder. And let me tell you, we should be for the authorities and the powers that God has ordained, and we should obey them. But you know what? Those people don't get to make up new powers and authority. And it's not their job. God did not make government to restrain good works. He made it to restrain evil works. If they're restraining good works, that is not government, ladies and gentlemen. That's not government. That's not what God ordained. That's wrong. That's wicked. The same people who like to bring this up, they forget the Apostle Paul spent a lot of time in jail. He spent a lot of time being punished for violating laws. But these laws that he violated were ones that were laws that nobody had a right to make. But yet they did it anyway. Why? Because they had the power during that time. And it was wrong, and we don't have to follow these things. And so some of us, one day, we fell in love with a woman. We wanted a physical relationship with her. And while much of what a man desires when he finds that woman he loves, you know what? Some of what we desire is sensual. So you know what I used? I used government. Okay, what does that mean? I had rules for that relationship. We had restrainers in our life to protect us, to keep us from those things. And then before we gave in to the sensual desires, we made sure we went and made vows first. We got a marriage license. We went, we got married, and we made a promise that what was going to take place on our honeymoon, we were never going to do with anybody else as long as either of us were living. You know what that's called? That's called government right there. That's called government. And we let things like this right here, like this ring on the finger, remind us of that. That you know what? We've made a vow. We've made a commitment. And these things are supposed to restrain us and stop us from doing things that our flesh might want to do sometime. But let me tell you, an example of a despiser of government is a fornicator. Someone who doesn't interested in going through all those channels. They're not interested in getting married first. An adulterer. Adulterer is a great example of someone who despises government. They don't care about the rules. Okay, not somebody who wants to raise their kids as they see fit. A church who wants to operate with Jesus Christ as the head of the church rather than the state. That is not a despiser of government, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a despiser of government. That's absolutely ridiculous. Despisers of governments are those who hate anything that is restraining their flesh from whatever it wants. And you want to know a great example, too, that you could find even in churches of despisers of government is those in leadership who want nothing governing them, telling them what to do. Unchecked power is what it is. And you have people that are setting up these things where they're the boss, they're in control, nobody can say anything. We're not going to have church constitution, we're not going to have church bylaws, we're not going to have anything in the church where anybody can hold me accountable. I think you're the despiser of government. You literally have nothing restraining you. You have no checks and balances in church. Why? Why do you fear that? Why do you fear having some kind of accountability? Why do you fear somebody keeping an eye and multiple people keeping an eye on what's going on with the finances and things? Why do you have a problem with having some kind of process when it comes to these things? Why do you feel that you should just be able to go and however you see fit, that's how you're going to do things? I'll tell you why. You're a despiser of government. You don't want anything controlling you, restraining you. And folks, we all need those things. We need government. Why? To protect us from doing what this flesh wants. And anybody who just can't handle that, who can't have anything restraining them, they are the despisers of government. Not a church and not a pastor who just wants to operate according to the Bible and who believes in the separation of church and state. Not someone who gets disgusted when elected representatives promote immorality. Okay, again, fornicators, adulterers, this is an example of things that government is supposed to restrain us from. But we've got our government promoting sodomy. Okay, and I'm not supposed to despise that? I don't want the office of president to go away. I don't want the office of governor to go away. But you know what I do want? I want people in those offices that are decent people who respect our Constitution, who respect laws. That's what I want. Who respect individual rights. I want people who will follow the rules and govern people to stop them from evil. I don't want a governor like J.B. Pritzker who keeps violating our state constitution and has to have judges step in all the time and stop him. I don't want somebody like that. I want a governor who governs according to the rules, not just somebody who does whatever he desires to do. And folks, look at the guy. He does whatever he desires to do. The guy has no control. The guy has nothing governing him. Nothing He's put nothing in his life to govern him. Thankfully, we've got some judges and things that have been putting him in his place. And I love that, and he hates that. And he'll do everything he can to get rid of that. Why? Because he despises government. And because he despises government, you know what? I despise him. He's not doing what he should do. The Bible says in Romans 13, verse 3, for rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Because that's what government does. They punish evildoers. They are supposed to create terror in the hearts of those that would hurt others. That's what they're there for. Wilt thou not be afraid of the power, but do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same, for he is a minister to God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain, for he is the minister of God, or avenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. And let me tell you something. In the last couple years, everything we saw going on with our government was pure evil. It did more damage than anything. They can talk about how noble they were trying to be and how they were trying to save lives. What they did violated all the rules. It was evil. They were wrong, and we should not have supported it. We should not have supported it. It was wrong.